Tick, tick, boom. The film opens with aspiring playwright Jonathan Larson, Andrew Garfield, addressing an audience of people watching his show, Tick, Tick, Boom, at a workshop theater in New York. He tells the viewers that he hears a ticking noise in his head that seems to be building up to something. He is accompanied by friends Roger, Joshua Henry, and Caressa, Vanessa Hudgens, as he talks about the week leading up to his 30th birthday. We hear the voice of Jonathan's girlfriend Susan Wilson, Alexandra Shipp, saying that everything that is about to be shown is true, except for the parts that John made up. John initially works as a waiter at the Moondance Diner in Soho with his friends Carolyn, MJ Rodriguez, and Freddie, Ben Levi Ross. He is currently working on a rock musical called Superbia that he has been writing for 8 years. He wants to be as successful as others who achieved fame before the age of 30, knowing his youth is over, 30/90ths. John takes the time to talk about the people in his life, like his best friend and former roommate Michael, Robin DeJesus, who was once an aspiring actor but got frustrated with it and moved on to advertising. John also talks about how Susan was formerly a dancer, but after suffering an injury, she turned to teaching dance. John throws a party where Michael, Susan, Carolyn, Freddie, and many others attend, as John is preparing to leave Moondance to chase his Broadway dreams, boho days. Outside, Susan tells John about a job she wants to take in the Berkshires at Jacob's Pillow, a dancing center, and she would like John to go with her. John goes with Michael to the latter's new apartment, where he is happy that he doesn't have to deal with all the problems his old building had, no more. John later meets with Ira Weitzman, Jonathan Mark Sherman, the musical theater program director at Playwrights Horizons, where John wants to present Superbia. Ira tells John that he needs to write a new song for the show, but John hasn't been able to come up with a new song despite his knack for coming up with songs about almost anything. John also asks Ira for musicians for the show, even though Ira says the budget is tight. During the show, John recalls another workshop for Superbia, where he encountered his idol, Stephen Sondheim, Bradley Whitford. While the head of the theater workshop, Walter Bloom, Richard Kind, had criticisms for John's work, Sondheim was a lot more supportive, saying that while there are parts that need to be worked out, he feels that John knows what the show wants to be. Presently, John tries to get his agent Rosa, Judith Light, to invite Sondheim to the opening night of Superbia, but he ends up calling Sondheim himself, as well as others. While watching Sunday in the Park with George, Michael offers John a chance to work for the marketing firm he is part of. Meanwhile, Susan once again invites John to join her in the Berkshires, but he is conflicted because he feels his time in the industry is coming. Johnny can't decide. At work the next day, Carolyn tells John that Freddie, who is HIV positive, is in the hospital after suffering a high fever. John wants to visit Freddie in the hospital but knows he has to write a song for Ira. He and Carolyn are swamped at work for Sunday brunch, which John envisions with featuring a number of acclaimed Broadway performers, including Philippa Sue, Renee Elise Goldberry, B.B. Newirth, Bernadette Peters, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Felicia Rashid, Cheetah Rivera, and of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda, while getting through the day, Sunday. John later goes to the theater district for Superbia rehearsals as he thinks about the way the business works in regards to what plays and what doesn't play game, framed as a cheesy rap video. John meets with the cast and later complains to Ira that he doesn't have musicians, but Ira says that only 12 people RSVP''D so far. At the same time, John is worried for Freddie because he already lost a few friends to HIV/AIDS. John gets so deep into his work that he starts to put off plans with Michael and Susan. Susan goes to his apartment, where she confronts him about his indecisiveness with joining her in the Berkshires. Their argument is represented through John and Caressa singing about it, therapy, and Susan eventually has enough and breaks up with John. John goes to the advertising firm that Michael set him up at. He worries that this is what his life will become, even if he does show something of a knack for presenting great ideas. However, despite considering it at first, he sabotages his chance by coming up with a condescending name for a fat substitute for cooking. He calls it Chubstitute. Michael later angrily confronts him about this, and as John says that Michael sold out his dreams for advertising, he hits back that it is difficult for him as a gay man during this time, as he doesn't have the same options someone like John does. Goes home and gets a phone call from Rosa, who sounds optimistic about Superbia opening. Just as he feels confident in writing a new song, his power is cut off in the apartment. He goes to a local swimming pool to gather some inspiration, swimming, and the notes come alive to him as he is underwater. It is the day of Superbia's workshop premiere. Slowly, People begin to show up, including John's parents Nanette and Alan, Judy Kuhn and Danny Burstein, plus Michael, and even Sondheim himself. The show goes well, with Caressa belting out the new song, Come to Your Senses, but John envisions Susan being the one to sing it to him on a rooftop. The audience appears to enjoy it. Rosa later contacts John, saying that Superbia has received raves, but she says it is a tough sell for Broadway, and even off-Broadway, calling it too arty, but critics are excited to see what John has next, even though he is disappointed to hear this. Rosa encourages him to keep writing. John then goes to Michael's job to bemoan this and ask for a job in the marketing firm, but Michael informs John that he is HIV positive, and John becomes devastated, real life, realizing that his obsession with him achieving theater stardom has cost him his friendship with Michael and relationship with Susan. During his show, John tearfully reminisces about how he has been in theater with Michael since they were kids. Why? As he is seen hopping a fence to a concert venue where he plays the piano. He goes to Michael's apartment to make up with him. On the day of John's 30th birthday, he receives a voice message from Sondheim, the actual voice of the real Stephen Sondheim, who says he loved Superbia and would like to sit down and discuss more with him. He then goes to Moonden's to celebrate his birthday, with Freddie having been discharged from the hospital to come attend, and John is elated to see him. Outside the diner, he sees Susan and goes to talk to her. They reconcile and part ways for the last time. Susan then narrates that John's next show was Tick, Tick, Boom, followed by a little show he had put off called Rent. It ran on Broadway for 12 years, but sadly, John died of a sudden aortic aneurysm the night before Rent had its preview shows begin. While John never lived to see his success, his work continues to live on and inspire people. John concludes Tick, Tick, Boom with louder than words as he looks optimistic about his future. People like Michael, Rosa, and others are watching the show, proud of him. The last scene is at the diner on John's birthday, with Michael giving him a cake and telling him to make a wish. Credits show pics and clips of the real Jonathan Larson. Jonathan Larson is an aspiring playwright, worried that he has little time to achieve success before his 30th birthday. He is in the process of a workshop musical, Superbia, which he thinks is going to take off. Although his friends support him, his obsession with hitting it big affects his relationship with his best friend Michael and girlfriend Susan. After some hurdles, John presents Superbia to his friends and even legendary Broadway writer Stephen Sondheim, but while the show is critically praised, the show is deemed a tough sell for Broadway. After Susan breaks up with him and Michael is revealed to be HIV positive, John puts his priorities straight. John later creates the show Tick, Tick, Boom, and later went on to create Rent for Broadway, but he sadly passed away the night before the preview shows for Rent began. While John never got to see the success he wanted, his work lives on.